Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to read Last Stop on Market Street, written by Matt de la Pena and illustrated by Christian Robinson. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the door swung open. "A bus that breathes fire?" "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear, placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always gotta go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "Well, I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the Sunglass Man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the whole world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses, too," the man said, sniffing the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood him back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man to play us a song?" And here we see the boys have what looks like an iPad, or I'm sorry, iPhone. CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed hers too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound. And the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended, and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti tagged windows and boarded up stores. He reached for Nana's hand. How come it's always so dirty over here? He smiled and pointed to the sky. She smiled and pointed to the sky. Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful. CJ saw the rainbow arcing over the soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful where he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and broken street lamps still lit up bright, and stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh, her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now come on." So, in today's story, Last Stop on Market Street, I think there's a very important lesson to take out. And that lesson is part of how we regulate our emotions. And one of the strategies of regulating our emotions are using strategies that are helpful and strategies that are not helpful. And I think that usually we talk about things that we can do. Maybe getting a drink of water, taking a breath, taking a break, giving ourselves some space. But today we're going to think about the way we think about things. And the example I'm going to use is probably one we've all heard. Here we have a glass of water. And how we view this water is going to depend how we feel about the water. And I know you're probably saying, "Mr. Billick, how could I feel anything about a glass of water?" But it's more an example that shows what we think affects how we feel. So what we can think about is, do you look at this glass as half empty? Or do you look at this glass as half full? And you might say, what's the difference? Well, the way we think about things will affect, like I said before, how we feel about them. If I feel like, oh, I'm already missing half of this, I'm probably going to have a bad feeling about it. If I say, I still have half left, I'm looking at it a little bit more positive, and I might be a little bit happier about the water that I have. So in this story, we see CJ, who is not necessarily looking at things in a negative way, but he's asking questions like, why do they have to go on the bus? Why can't he play after church? Why do they have to go to the place that we find out is the soup kitchen to help out in the community? And the Nana is always looking at the positive. She's saying, well, we have a bus driver who always shows you a trick. It breathes fire. She's able to see the beauty in things. And in the end, we see that CJ realizes the beauty in helping out in the community. And he realizes that while his other friends don't have to go and do anything after they're done, and he wished he could just go play like the other kids that he was seeing, he realized that he was getting a lot out of helping out in his community. It didn't say that, but he was glad they came. And I infer that he was glad they came because he saw the good that they were doing. And on one hand, it's great to think about, do I have a positive look on things? And also, am I making a difference in my community? Am I helping those around me? Sometimes we can help those around us by recognizing how they're feeling on the mood meter and using some strategies to help them feel better. And sometimes it's doing some service. In this book, it's going to a soup kitchen. But there's other ways to give service and volunteer. So when we look at some of the helpful strategies, we talk about positive self-talk. Give yourself a compliment. Repeat nice things to yourself. This is a helpful strategy to make yourself feel better when you're feeling in the blue or the red. But it's also something that doesn't have to necessarily just be positive self-talk. It can be positive talk. Knowing that we can look at the positive things helps us to feel more positively. And if we're feeling more positively, we could be in the green more often. So, the glass of water example, we have half a glass of water. It's either half empty and we're in the blue, or it's half full and we're in the green. Now, the water hasn't changed, it's how we looked at that glass of water. And Nana in this story teaches CJ to look at the bright side. He says, I wish I had an iPhone. Now, we don't know that it's an iPhone, but we can guess that it's an iPhone. And she said, well, what do you need an iPhone for? They're listening to music. You have a gentleman right in front of you who has a guitar. So she's able to see not what she doesn't have, but what she does. And I think that that's an important lesson for us all in helping to regulate our emotions. Do we look at what we have in a positive way? Do we approach situations in a positive way? Does that mean everything is good and everything is positive? No, there's going to be some things that may be tough, may be difficult, maybe make you sad, maybe make you feel lonely, maybe make you feel angry. And that's okay. But if we're actively trying to see the good in situations, it's going to help us be in the green a lot more in the blue. And that's a choice that we can all make, is how we look at things. For example, if I have a test and I fail that test, I can be angry, I can be sad, I can feel maybe even a little bit embarrassed if my friend was happy about they got a good grade and I didn't. But the positive thing that I can take from that is, what did I learn? Did I study as much as I could have? Did I work as hard as I could have? Did I ask the teacher for help when I needed it? Did I do everything I possibly could to get the best grade I could have? If the answer is no, then I've learned that I could do a better job of working hard, asking for help, or doing whatever I need to do to get a better grade. If the answer was yes, I did everything I could, then we can say, you know what? I tried my best, and this time it wasn't good enough. And just because it wasn't good enough this time doesn't mean it's not going to be good enough next time. Continue to work hard. Continue to ask for help when you need it. And if you're not sure why a grade was that way, maybe I can go to the teacher and say, I worked really hard. What can I do to improve? And then the teacher will help me. And that's just one example. Sometimes situations give us a chance to learn a lesson. Sometimes it makes us stronger because we've gotten through something that we didn't know that we could get through before. But always keeping the lesson that Nana has of trying to see the good and trying to see the positive in things will help us all stay in the green and the yellow as much as possible. Boys and girls, I hope that you have a lot to stay positive for, and I hope that you find the positive in everything that you do this weekend. Have a great week.